Welcome to 2025. Woo!
So exciting.
Yes, I'm T,
I'm Megan.
and welcome back to the Horror Ghouls podcast. The year's new, the nights are cold and long, and what better way to kick off the year than diving headfirst into the dark, blood-soaked heart of a cult classic? That's right. We're starting this year with a bite, literally. We're talking vampires, but not the sparkling kind. No, no.
No, 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 no.
Forget castles and capes, and this isn't your typical gothic horror. No, we're heading to the dusty back roads of America, where the undead ride shotgun in a beat up RV, and moonlight turns outlaws into something much, much worse. Okay. So, Megan, I I know you saw Nosferatu. I'm about to botch that word again.
That's okay.
And it honestly might not fit with what I'm about to ask you, but when you think of vampires, what exactly comes to mind?
Dracula. Kind of all the things you said this is not about. So, so, like castles, bats, dress real nice, fancy, accumulated wealth through the generations, like fancy. Also like my dream man, maybe. Like, I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
think of Count Chocula and
That's such a good one. Okay.
and and like the grandpa from like the Addams Family and from the Munsters too, like that
Yeah,
guy. But I
grandpa.
also think of like, yeah, I don't automatically go to Twilight vampires. I almost
Same.
never. I was always a werewolf girly anyway, so I stand on the side of the lichens most times.
I was
But
gonna ask. I was gonna
yeah,
ask if given the choice,
lichens
are,
all the
are we
way.
talking about Michael Sheen as a
No,
Lycan? Okay,
no,
because I like
no.
Michael Sheen as a Lycan. I'm just saying.
No, I think about the what are the movies that were basically just all lichens? The ones with the chick, I can't remember. I saw like most.
Underworld.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, that's where Michael Sheen was a Lycan.
Yeah, but there's like other ones, not
No, I
him.
know,
But
I know.
yeah.
His was my favorite, but there were other
Yeah.
ones. I know.
But he's not bad. Like, but that's not the first one that came to mind. But yeah, like I don't know. I like those movies, but like vampires, I definitely don't think of cowboys.
No,
No.
the other one we left out, I feel like we would be remiss, is the Count from Sesame Street.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Forgot about him. We
Yeah.
have to think about
How
him.
could we? We have to think about him.
We
Let's
have
think
to mention Muppets at least once.
at least
So,
once an episode. Well, you said Count
yes,
Chocula, so that I was like, oh shit, we forgot the other
yes,
one. But yeah,
yes.
not a Western dusty ass.
No,
No, mm-mm,
no.
no.
So, I mean, with that said, tonight we are dissecting the 1987 movie Near Dark. It is directed by Kathryn Bigelow, and it is a gritty, genre-bending masterpiece that gave vampires a punk rock attitude and just a dash of cowboy flair. So, grab a cold one, make sure it's not O negative. Okay, crank up some music in your RV and settle in as we sink our teeth into this very interesting nightmare of a movie.
Interesting nightmare is that should be the title of this episode. Interesting nightmare. Join us for an interesting nightmare. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. Our
There we go.
2025 is starting off bloody, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So,
Absolutely not. I agree.
yes. So, let's get started. So, we start off with Caleb Colton, and let me forewarn you. I know typically we go through this movie like part by part. If you have seen this movie, which I guarantee 90% of you have not, maybe even 99.8% of you, because nobody that I talked to has seen this movie or heard of it before. And this was a recommendation by somebody, so someone has seen it.
We
But
can't figure out who. We think we know who, but I
right.
want to say if whoever that person is listening, that I'm mad at them. That's
So
all I'm going to
yeah.
say about it.
So yeah,
But
so we have an idea, but we're not sure. So, but nobody really knows this movie. So there are going to be parts that I'm kind of speed running through. But there are some parts that I am giving a little bit more detail. So just fair warning, in case you are a lover of this movie and you're like, she skipped this part, she didn't talk. That's the only reason why. We just want to get through it. And there's some other things to discuss.
We
So
just want to
yeah.
live. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So so Caleb Colton meets May in his small Oklahoma town, and he's very intrigued by her mysterious demeanor, and he offers her a ride home. And so they spend time talking, and while they're driving home, May tells him, "Get out the truck, stop the truck right now." And they get out the truck, and she's like, "Do you hear it? Do you hear the night? The night is so loud, Caleb. It's so loud." But he
It's weird. It's weird because she seems like I just want to like first of all, I need to obviously clear my throat because I sound crazy. So, sorry. But it sounds like she's very far away. And I just want that to be clear because he's trying to have a regular conversation with this girl, and she's kind of like, she's a little spooky and a little spaced out. And
she
he's like, not,
definitely
but he's not picking up on it really either. She's just kind of like, take a look. Can you see the stars? And he's like, that's nice. So
right.
there's something interesting about this girl
It's
for sure.
it's it's like she's been slipped quaaludes. So
Yeah,
she seems a little off like that.
a little bit.
Um, so he's just like, okay, that's cool. She's like so fascinated. But they go and they visit his horse. He's like, let me show you my horse. And the horse is like spooked by her, and she's like, horses don't like me. But um Dawn starts to approach, and she's like, I gotta go home. I gotta go home. And in a very non-consensual way, he's like, hey, he stops his car and takes the keys and puts them down his shirt and is like, hey, you got to give me a kiss in order for me to take you home. And quite frankly, she's like, okay. She gives him a kiss and she bites him. And she runs off, leaving him confused and in pain. So Caleb's like, wow, that was some kiss. Okay. And he gets in his car, but now his car won't start. And that forces him to walk home. However, on the way home, Caleb starts experiencing unusual symptoms. His skin starts burning. He's smoking a little bit. When
Normal stuff.
right, when as he's exposed to the sunlight, and he feels an overwhelming thirst that he really doesn't understand. And as he's getting closer to the house, his sister Sarah, who's around 9 years old, sees him and alerts her dad, Loy, that she sees Caleb and that he looks sick. But before Caleb can make it to the house, he's abducted by a group of people traveling in an old RV. And May is part of this group. Now, this prompts Loy to call the police and report his son's abduction. Initially, one of the people in the RV is about to kill Caleb, but May gets in between them and to protect Caleb and is like, look, I bit him, and if you wanted to kill him, you're gonna have to kill me. He's probably turned. And so the leader of the group says that Caleb has to come with them at this point, and the RV pulls into a hangar, and everyone settles in for the day to go to sleep. Now, later that night, when everyone is awake, May says that she will take care of Caleb. And at this point, we find out that a child who was also part of this group turned May and taught her, but she persists that she can take care of Caleb herself, which does upset this kid. And he laments that he's a big man and a small body, which we're gonna talk about that later. Um, and the leader says that they'll give Caleb a week to see if he can handle being with them. And so it's at this point that they introduce themselves to Caleb, which includes the ruthless leader, Jesse Hooker, who's played by Henriksen. I think I said that right.
And he has a rat tail, and it's disgusting.
Yes,
I'm
it's
just
very
saying.
long, very long.
Yeah.
His partner, Diamondback, the very violent Severin, who's played by Bill Paxton,
Who I love. Sorry. It was gonna come out.
who is the person who offered to kill Caleb initially. And then we have the weird man-child Homer, who grabs Caleb by the nubs, if you know what I mean by nubs, okay, and spells out his name, telling him not to mispronounce it. I don't know who's going to mispronounce Homer,
He's very
but
aggressive for no reason.
he
Yeah.
is. But we find out a little later why he's so aggressive because he even says that Caleb's ugly. Um, but if Caleb happens to mispronounce Homer's name, he's going to kill him. So that is what that is. Now,
Okay.
fun fact, this movie never, ever mentions the term vampire throughout the whole entire movie. You will never hear them say that, which is why I have not described them as such so far. But of course, if someone bites you and you grow cold and pale and the sun is going to burn you and you
Makes you
have,
go on fire and
right,
yeah.
you have insatiable bloodlust, you're probably a vampire. So,
They literally did every kind of vampire trope,
right.
but didn't say it. But it's
Right.
clear. It's clear. It's clear what's
Yeah,
happening.
it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. So, if at some point I start saying vampire, that's why. Because
Vampire.
obviously.
Yeah.
Uh so at this point the group steals a car, um and they set a like what looks like to be a trailer or a house on fire, and they drive off. And we don't know what they did inside of this house or trailer. We just know that they set something on fire. And maybe I assume that maybe they had dinner and they're cleaning up with the fire. Um, so as the group separates from May and Caleb, Caleb decides he needs to go home. And May's like, yeah, okay, well, you're not going to get very far. But he leaves anyway. So he goes to a bus station. He gets a ticket. Well, he tries to get a ticket, but he's short $3. The ticket is like 14. He only has 11. So he goes to get some candy. The candy makes him violently sick. And at that point, a detective finds him. And the cop is like, what are you on? And he's like, I can't even explain what the hell I'm on. Like, I don't know. But this is the first time we see that Caleb is actually enticed by blood because the cop has a cut or something on his hand and it's wrapped up. And he like puts his hand up to Caleb's like shoulder and stuff to see because he has blood on his shirt. And Caleb kind of like follows his hand. Um,
He's like,
yeah, he's like,
that
ooh, I like
smell.
that. That smells good. It smells like chicken in here. Um, but he asked the cop for like $3. He gives it to him and he gets on the bus. However, he gets violently sick on the bus and has to get off, which forces Caleb to go right back to May. Um, and he thinks he's dying, but she feeds him, if you know what I mean. And he hungrily drinks up and is renewed and runs off into the night with her. So
I
at
wrote,
this,
wait,
oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
I said, after they came back and, she bites her own wrist and the whole thing that you love
Yeah.
so much because you're not about blood. I
Uh-uh.
said, then they stare at the night together and run off by the trucks holding hands. Barf. That's what I
Right.
wrote.
Which it's interesting in that scene, they kind of foreshadow something happening later
Hmm.
two times. They show a big semi getting washed and somebody getting into the semi. Which semi trucks happen to be all over this movie for whatever reason. It's a prominent theme in this
It
movie.
was right next to the set for Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive,
Right.
right?
So
I don't know.
yeah. So that's a little interesting. So
A little bit.
um the next day, Caleb's dad, Loy, which I was calling Tim for a while through this, and I had to go back and write everything because the actor's name is Tim. And so I was writing Tim did this, and then I realized, oh shoot, his name is Loy. So Caleb's dad, Loy, wakes up worried about Caleb and he checks on Sarah, who's also worried. They go to the police station to inquire what's going on, and the police were policing. They were like, yeah, yeah, we're doing everything we can, whatever. So Loy and Sarah decide that they're going to start canvassing the area themselves, looking for Caleb. And while they're out, Caleb does call them, but obviously they don't answer because they're not home. And May tries to calm Caleb down because he's like, I gotta go home. I'm scared. But she reassures him that he'll be okay, but he has to learn how to kill if he wants to stay alive. And the movie at this point shows a little montage of how each vampire makes their kill. So Homer lays on the ground like he was a little kid hit by a car with a bike next to him, and he tricks a bystander. He kills the bystander. Well, not the bystander, but it's like a good Samaritan who drives up
Right.
in the car, and he kills them. Severin uses his charm to catch a ride with two ladies and kills them at some point. Diamondback and Jesse pick up a hitchhiker, which is actually a part of a duo trying to rob them and do things to Diamondback because we know how these movies are. It's like we're gonna have a good time with this one, so you get
Yeah.
what I'm saying. But the joke is on them because they kill them. Um,
I thought that was funny because they were just kind of sitting there in the car while the people popped up and they were like, we're gonna do whatever. They're like pulling
right,
out little knives and whatever. And they're just like, oh yeah? Okay, try
right.
it.
They're
Try
like, yeah,
it.
you're gonna have a good time with your
They're
face
like,
ripped off.
oh no, I'm so scared. Yeah, like
Right.
that was
It's
funny.
like you didn't know who you were messing with that one.
That's a
Um,
mistake. Yep.
right. And so now we get back to Caleb and May, who are now in the semi truck with a very nice man who believes that they're two kids that are running away from home. And though he knows that they're kids, he offers them beers and smokes.
As you
Um,
do when you hitchhike. That's how that works,
right.
I guess, right?
Right.
I don't know.
And so, interestingly enough, this man is showing them how you like run, how you basically run the car or run the truck. And he mentions like if you don't do something or if you do something, it's going to basically kill the driver. That's what he basically says. So it's going to end the trucker's life. But May is sitting there like, kill him, like she's urging him.
Yeah.
And
She's like, you gotta learn.
right.
Right.
Caleb can't do it though. He gets sick. They get out the truck, and May ends up killing the man for him, and then secretly feeds Caleb again because he cannot feed on his own. Which is weird because if May, honestly, if May killed the man for him, why couldn't he just feed on the man at that point? Because he's still feeding on a human. Like you're still feeding on a human. So
Yeah.
just feed off that human. Like it's
Well,
still warm.
you know, I don't think that the story of this movie is I'm trying to find the words. Like it's not streamlined enough for someone to have thought about that in the writing, or they thought about that and they were like, ah, whatever, it's fine. Just keep it's compelling and they're gonna love it. And we're like, no. But it's
Possible,
okay.
yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
because it
speculation.
I mean, because it's like Caleb refuses to kill, but he's willing to like suck the life out of his girlfriend's arm. So
I don't know.
uh it is what it is with that.
That's right.
But the next day, Loy and Sarah are at a diner in Waco, Texas. And remember, they're all from Oklahoma, so they've traveled quite a bit to get to Texas. And they're still looking for Caleb. So he calls the sheriff back home, who informs him that a detective from another town said that Caleb was spotted and was going home. And so this tip gives, and I wrote Tim here, I meant Loy. This tip gives Loy
Good old Tim.
and right an
Yeah.
idea of where to go from there. So now that night, the clan is fed up with Caleb's inability to hunt and feed on his own, but May keeps pleading for them to give him another chance. So Jesse tells the group they will give Caleb one more night. So honestly, this is supposed to be like they were giving him a week in the beginning, so I'm assuming that a week has gone by. Um, even though it
But
seems
there's no
like
other indication of that.
right, because it seems like it's just night, day, night, day, night, day,
Right.
because we get Loy and Sarah during daylight hours, and then we get all the vampires at night. Um, so because they told us in the beginning that they were giving him a week, we can only assume that a week has gone by, and now they're giving him one more day.
Yeah.
So that's the only indication we get. Because
I don't
other
know.
than that, this seems chaotic that it's this quick.
It does.
Um,
To me, watching it, I thought it was just like a few, like 2 days went by. But
yeah,
like I said,
yeah.
maybe they were in a rush to get this screenplay out. I don't know.
If you look at it in day and night cycles, it's 6 days in
Mm,
total if you do day and night cycles. Because yeah, I started out writing days and then I realized, wait, it can't be days because they said a
right.
week. And if they did that, they would be shortening the time that they said they were going to give him. Like, why would they be so pissed that he just didn't kill the one person?
They're
Like, give
just
him some
fed up
time.
with him. They're just like,
Right,
oh, this guy is the worst. Let's get rid of
right.
him. Yeah.
So since Jesse said that they're going to give Caleb one more night, this brings us to the most infamous scene in the movie, the bar scene. Now, this scene showcases the brutal nature of the vampire clan and Caleb's inner conflict because he is still unwilling to kill. And they all enter this rundown bar in rural Oklahoma, and their presence instantly unsettles the patrons in this bar. Now, Severin, who is very unhinged in this scene, taunts and provokes a trucker, which incites a fight between the trucker and Caleb. trying to force Caleb into killing the trucker, but he does not. Jesse and Diamondback join into this carnage, slaughtering a waitress while Homer watches on. And more patrons are killed throughout before the bartender loads up a shotgun and shoots Caleb in the stomach, which at this point, it makes Caleb realize that he can't die. And so the clan is kind of like laughing at this. They're like, oh my God, ha ha ha. That's great. And Severin tells Caleb, like, listen, you look a little weary right now because you just got shot and it was your first time. So just sit down. I'm gonna take care of it. And he decides to slice the bartender's neck with his foot spurs, his shoe spurs that he has all the time. Um, and so at this point, they're like, okay, there's one guy, well, there's a few people left. They still get killed, but there's one guy left at the end, and they're looking at Caleb like, go kill him. But once again, May gets up and intervenes. She starts dancing with this guy, but this guy's like, fuck this. And he jumps out of a window. And May tells Caleb, like,
Mm.
run, like, go get him.
Go get him.
So while the clan is setting the bar on fire, which is how you know earlier that fire must have been after dinner, because this is after dinner, they're
Right.
setting stuff on fire again. Um, Caleb goes and runs after the guy, but he sets him free. He still cannot kill him.
Well, also, like, who doesn't love a nice fire after dinner, right? It's nice to
Right.
have traditions. Um, I'm gonna tell you, I laughed out loud when that guy jumped out the window. It was funny because it was abrupt,
It
and
was given Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
it was, but there was also no,
There was
like,
no
no,
indication that he was
there,
going to do
there was no, but also
that.
it was like there was no note. They're like, we got to do this in one take. Just jump out the window. He was like, how you want me to do it? Just jump out. So he just crashed through the window. Um,
Yeah,
Also of note, Bill Paxton looks really good in the scene, everybody.
yeah,
He looks real good in the scene.
he
But this
does.
scene was incredibly long.
It
It
is a
was
very long scene.
very long.
It sounds like I'm going through this pretty quickly. Like there was like two people in this bar, but there was about six or seven people in this bar and like two servers, a bartender, there was somebody in the bathroom. You know, there was
If
quite a few people in
honestly,
here.
if you were gonna go blow for blow through this entire scene, it would be 20 minutes long. It was too damn long, the scene. It was
It was
it
pretty
was a
long.
lot. It was a
It was
lot.
pretty long. Oh, I
Um,
forgot. Homer does kill somebody too. The guy that was in the bathroom, he tries to run, and Homer shoots him in the back with a
Homer
gun.
was like, no, no.
Yeah, so
Um,
there's that.
yeah, so it was a long scene. Um, Funny guy jumping out the window, Bill Paxton looking nice. You know what it was for me? The leather jacket and the sunglasses together. I was like, oh, that's a good
Yes.
one.
He took
But yeah,
sunglasses off one of the patrons
he sure did.
before he killed him.
He sure did. But yeah, it was too excessive for me. But apparently, a lot of people in this world, this might be an unpopular opinion I have, love this scene. It's a standout scene, apparently.
It is a standout scene. It has gotten rave reviews, and a lot of people think that this scene was shot expertly by the cinematographer and directed
Uh-huh.
perfectly by the director. So, I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's I I'm gonna leave all my thoughts till the end of this review. So we'll talk about it then. But but yeah,
Mm.
so the guy gets away. Um, Everybody comes out after they set the place on fire, and Jesse is pissed off at May and Caleb at this point, but they have no time to talk about it because the sun is rising and they have to get out of the sun ASAP.
He had to save his
So,
rat tail.
right.
So, yeah.
So they go to get a motel room, and at this point, I noticed something. Now, I watched this movie twice. I watched this movie like briefly earlier in the week, and I watched it again tonight, right before I did this. And in the scene, Jesse is getting the key for a bungalow, and he sees a rubber mat on the table, and they show this mat several times. So I'm like, why are they showing this? I had to keep looking at it, and I had to like really pause the scene to like make out what it said. And the name on this mat said Fleischmann's Fine Liquor on it. So when he sees that, he takes off his scarf and doesn't want to touch the man and takes the key from the man without touching him, which I found was weird too.
Huh.
Now, I thought it was weird, so I looked up Fleischmann's. Come to find out, this is a liquor company located in New York, Queens specifically. And then I looked a little further and found that the company was started in 1868, with the first plant being built in Ohio in 1870. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but follow me, okay? Now, in the next scene in the movie, well, not the next scene, but a few scenes later, Jesse, and I will briefly go over this again. Like, I'm not going to go in detail, but I'm going to mention when it happens. But Jesse reveals that he's old enough to have been a soldier in the Civil War, which concluded with the Confederacy losing in 1861. Now, remember, I just said that Fleischmann's place was started in 1868, okay,
Right.
in 1870, which is just some years later after the war ended. Jesse states that he was on the losing side, which means he was on the Confederacy, which
Right.
means that he saw Fleischmann's didn't want to touch that man's hand because he was part of the North. And so that
Mm.
upset him so much that he didn't want to touch his hand.
He was
And
like, "You filthy Yankee."
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know that like 98% of people are not going to look into that like that. They're not going to catch that because the mat is not even clear enough for you to really see the Fleischmans. I had to look really hard for
Yeah.
like a good 10 minutes to figure out what that said. And I
Wow.
honestly have to say, I think that that detail is like really dope. Like when I put everything together, I was like, oh my God, I really like that. But you didn't do it good enough for people to really pick that up.
Well, I 100% agree that that is really cool. And someone somewhere, if they ever stumble upon this, is going to be like, "I came up with that. Thank you so much. I need to get some props for what I did."
Right.
I had no idea any of that was fucking happening, if we're being honest. So that whoop went over my head because I'm typing my notes. I saw the
Yeah.
key exchange. That was it. So
Because when he first gives him first of all, when he takes the money out, he doesn't touch him again. He throws the money down on top of the mat.
that's
Like he
right.
looks at the mat, he throws it down. Then he goes to get the key. He says the guy giving him the key says, "Haven't I seen you before?" And he just takes off his scarf like he's disgusted, takes the key with his scarf and like says, "Yeah, I come here and make a reservation every 50 years," and like leaves.
Yeah. Huh.
Um,
That's
but it
very
was
interesting.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just weird. Like I always say, if you're watching something and they keep showing you a detail,
There's a
there
reason.
has to be a reason. And a lot of times you'll get a movie that shows you a detail and doesn't go anywhere. But they showed that mat 3 times up close. So I'm like, why are they showing that? And
Well,
that is why.
also, if you think about it, for the time this movie came out, the year of our Lord me, 1987. Just kidding. I don't think that highly of myself. Um, no one had the internet to look that up. No one could look that up,
That's
right? So
true.
it's like, how would anyone have even known that? They're like,
That's
I keep
true.
looking at this map. What does it mean? And they were just going nuts. Like someone somewhere was like, oh, finally, because they were like, I wish that I had something to look this up on, and that's how Google was created. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But
Right.
that's it. It is interesting that it was done that way, but like you said, not enough. You didn't go far enough to
No,
make sure
because
we knew.
like no, first of all, the scene seems weird because yeah, why does he take his scarf off and not want to touch the man? Why are they showing that mat? And
Booties,
also, you don't
obviously.
find out about him being a part of the Confederacy until like 10 minutes later in the movie. And
Yeah,
if you didn't pay attention to that first scene, which is what happened the first time I watched this movie, I didn't care.
right.
I saw him not wanting to touch the man with the scarf the first time, but I didn't pay no attention. And when I heard him say something about the Confederacy, I said, "Oh, so you like slaves?" And that was all I got from that the first time I watched it. But
You're like, oh, gross, this guy.
I'm like, oh, you like sleeves. Because
No, thank you.
he was
Yeah.
kind of proud that he was part of the South, even though he
He's
lost.
like, I fought the Confederacy, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And we were like,
Because
okay.
you're like, because first I thought that he didn't like him because it said Fleischmann's and maybe that was like Jewish or something. I didn't now if I'm wrong about the name, I didn't look up where that's from. But in my mind, I said, well, maybe it's Jewish, and then I saw it was Queens, New York, and I'm like, maybe. Um, but then it went back to Ohio, and I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. But then I saw the actual connection. So anyway, I thought that was
Interesting.
interesting.
It is interesting. It's just like they didn't take it to the touchdown, you know?
Not enough for like your
No.
casual viewer to really follow what's going
No.
on because it's
Especially in
so slight.
1987. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
and even the
Come
people
on.
one of Megan's friends found this movie on YouTube. So if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. It was uploaded 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago for some by somebody for some reason. The actual director's commentary version was uploaded 2 years ago.
Oh.
So that is also on here, but I did not watch
Well, what's
that.
funny though too, and I guess we'll talk about more about this later, but we were trying to find this movie and we couldn't find it anywhere. And because apparently you did the research on this, so I don't want to say like I found it out because
It's
I
fine.
didn't. But it's like Warner didn't want to give the rights to it and they pulled it from all the sources. So you can't buy it to stream or anything.
Yeah, you can't even
And
play it in a regular disc player because like it has some type of source code on the disc
yeah.
that won't allow it to
So
play if you're in the United States.
right, for me, I was like, what are they hiding from us? Maybe it's really good. And then we watched it and I was like, oh, they actually did us a favor. They did us a favor. Okay.
She did say
Uh,
that. She did
I
say
did.
that.
I was like, oh, and I understand now. And like I said, I'm a type of person, I know you're saving your commentary for the end. If I don't like something, it's hard for me to keep that inside. It's hard. But I'm trying to, this is just mild too. This is just
It
like
is mild.
it's leaking out like a little bit here and there, but I have strong feelings. But anyway, but I
But
thought
yeah.
that was interesting because, like we said, my friend Lou, we can give a shout out to Lou.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks a
Lou.
lot, Lou. Thanks a lot, or thanks a lot for finding this for us. Um, if someone says you can't have something, you immediately want it more. So I think that was
That's
my
true.
thing too. I was like, we can't find it. I need to watch it. And then I was like, okay,
That's
well,
true.
anyway.
Oh, but yeah. So the last thing I'm gonna say about this, like when I went to go look at the comments on YouTube, which there's only about 10 comments on there. None of them, first of all, obviously none of them are going to mention this one part, but none of them are negative either. All of them are like, this is my favorite movie. Thank you for uploading it. Like, this is the best movie ever. It's my favorite cult classic from back in the day. So very interesting. But if you ever want to see it, Near Dark 87, it's on YouTube.
For
Enjoy.
now, at least. For
Yeah,
now.
for now. So enjoy.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll move on from that. So the cops do find them at the Bigelow. Lord, not T. They find them at the or Deuce Bigelow. It's not that either. They find them at the bungalow. Because the guy that they let go is sitting in the back seat. Now, mind you, I don't know how the guy who ran away, sitting in the back seat of their cop car now, knew where they went, unless he
Right.
just recognized the RV or something.
Yeah.
But I don't see how he could have. But anyway, that's a plot hole that we're never going to get the answer to. But either
Never.
way,
Never.
this, he leads them to that bungalow, and a firefight ensues. It is daylight at this point, so Caleb is forced to risk his life to get the RV so the clan can escape. And this move in particular um makes the clan respect Caleb more, despite him being the reason that they're in this firefight and his refusal to kill. Um and Megan, we talked earlier. I wasn't even going to mention this, but when we talked earlier, I was saying how I wanted to actually show you guys the trailer for this movie because it's so unknown. But there's a scene in this firefight where a man gets a bullet shot, like a shotgun shell shot through him, and it's very graphic for 87 and too graphic for YouTube. But you were saying like that was one of the best practical effects that you saw, right? In this
Yeah.
movie, this was
Yeah,
this
yeah.
part.
That part in particular where there wasn't a lot about this movie that excited me. If you guys didn't pick up on me saying that, right? But there were a few things like here, like in the bar as well, and here, where even like this shot that occurred, I was like, oh, like I actually was like, and I made like a face like of approval at the television. I thought it was a good one, and
Yeah,
in a movie where for me there weren't a lot of high points, but I love a gross kill. It wasn't like super
yeah.
gross either,
No,
but we're
but
talking
it
about like a
was.
movie of its time. Like it was solid.
Yeah, it made when I was looking at it because I hadn't looked at the trailer prior and I only looked at it to see if I wanted to see if we could play it. And when I
Right.
looked, I was like, oh, we can't show
It's
that.
a that's too much. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
especially for um I think it's funny they put that in the trailer too, like at the time, because
right.
we definitely don't see that now.
Not at all.
You
I mean,
never see that.
the world has become kind of wimpy. And I don't mean that in a bad, I don't mean it in a bad way, but I do mean it in a bad way. Like,
It's a double-edged
like,
sword.
yeah, because
Right.
I think that it's good that, and I'm not going to go on a tangent here because we're almost at the end of this movie, people. And I'm really at this point about to speed run to the end of this movie. Um, like the world has become much more PC and much more sensitive to what we
Yeah.
show and things like that. At the same time, there are a lot of more things that are shown. Like there's more sexual things shown and less like gory. murderous things shown for the most part in trailers at the very least. And so
Yeah.
yeah, for a trailer to be like just show that and the way they showed it, it was like blood everywhere. I was like, oh my God. So,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And it's like I get like for little kids, like you don't want them
yeah,
watching like their family show and then they see that. I think there's ways to include it. Like you can still show like a little blood or something, but you don't need to show someone getting like blown away,
yeah,
which just seems a little bit much for the thing. And also like gives away the best effect of the movie
yeah, you don't want to do that. And
in the trailer. Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of times now we get bait and switch trailers where there's scenes that are not in the movie in the
Yeah.
trailer, which pisses you off because like sometimes the best scenes are in that trailer and then you watch the movie and you're like, where was that scene that I saw?
I agree.
You know?
I
So,
agree with that. Yeah.
but yeah, but so I mean, I think that it's good we become a little more PC, but at the same time, I miss the 90s. And I miss the
Yeah.
2000s where things were a little bit more like gritty. I'm not trying to go like full blown you can say or do whatever you want. Like I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
Twitter over here, X as they call it, like because that's the wild
X.
wild west over there. But
Yeah,
we
no,
we can at
I
least
get
do
it.
Reddit over here. We could be Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit. I mean, Reddit. Yeah, too. I just or speaking of that, and I know this was another like censored app, so not to take us off topic, but I got a notification, important update from TikTok. It's all happening, people. They're taking it down tomorrow, so
Is it
let's.
actually going through?
It's going through.
Huh.
We'll see if anything happens in the 11th hour, but that was my breaking news that I was like, like it came up on my phone. I was like, oh my God.
Well, as we're recording this, clearly, if we say tomorrow, that means we're recording this on the
Mm,
18th. So by the time you actually see this, we will know for sure whether there was an extension or if TikTok was actually
maybe
banned.
some they sold it to someone. We don't know.
Right.
I actually don't use it. I'm an elder millennial at this point. I don't use the TikToks. Um,
Yeah.
but it still came through like on my phone.
Yeah, and I'll say this right quick. I'm also an elder millennial and or as I call myself, ye old millennial. And I during lockdown, I definitely used TikTok quite a bit. But I grew to like not like it at all. But I will say this because somebody brought this to my attention. I was watching a video. Um if TikTok is banned, it's going to make a lot of people lose their revenue from
Yeah,
creators to small businesses to editors and like managers and things like that. And that breaks my heart.
that's
While
a shame.
I'm not on that app. I don't have the app on my phone. I deleted it. I'm definitely not on there, but that hurts my heart because, right now we're dealing with the fires in California,
Oh
which
my
I hope by the
gosh.
time this comes out that it's under control.
Please.
Which
It's
that's
crazy.
ridiculously devastating. And then you have all these people that might also be out of a job as of tomorrow. It's heartbreaking. So I really do hope that something does happen because even though I don't like the app and you will never catch me back on that app, um, I do hope that these people can keep their jobs because a lot of these people might be in California and to lose your house or to lose a loved one or to lose your pet. And then on top of that, to now wonder where your next paycheck is coming from.
Yeah.
That's awful.
It's a lot. And it's like, this is just our this is just our real life moment, I feel like, because for the most part we try to keep you entertained and distracted and a break from the news and the real world. But guys, it's getting real weird
Yeah,
out
yeah,
there. So
yeah.
sometimes forgive us if it leaks in a little bit. We're only just people, just like
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
So
And so,
I get it. I hope that people get the revenue too. I don't care. I don't love consuming. Um, I think about it like this. This is my old lady comment. This is the only thing I'll say about it. Any kind of app, even like Instagram, if someone sends me reel after reel after reel after reel, I start getting freaked out. Like it bothers me. But I feel like when there's flashing colors and lights and sounds in your face that are 1 to 2 minutes long and you're repeatedly consuming that, that's not good for your brain.
oh, it's
That's
called
all.
brain rot. They call it brain rot. The kids call it
Right.
brain rot.
Yeah, the kids. So that's like I said, my old lady 2 cents about it. I'm not mad about whatever people want to use, but just for me, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not really my thing.
I don't know why I didn't like TikTok, but I actually really like YouTube stories and
Different.
I actually do look at Instagram reels from time to time.
Me too.
Um so yeah, I don't know what the appeal was for me to not be on TikTok but to be over here. But regardless, like at the end of the day, if even TikTok goes down, I did hear that Meta is trying to figure out how they can start incentivizing for people coming over from TikTok to
Yeah.
Instagram or even Facebook, I guess, whatever Meta platform they want to use.
Meta.
So
We're gonna
who
see what happens.
knows?
We're
Yeah.
gonna see what happens, everyone. And
Yes.
that was our little PSA brought to you during Near Dark, which was
Yes.
not the favorite movie I've ever watched. But go on. Continue.
Yes. So okay. So after that firefight, they end up at a new motel, and this is where I actually wrote speed running this part, which I kind of do and kind of don't. So the clan continued to show their appreciation for Caleb's bravery, risking his life for them. And this is when Caleb finds out how old Jesse is. So this is the part where he talks about being in the Confederacy.
Mm.
Caleb and May leave to go for a walk while the others play a card game. And May tells Caleb how Homer tricked her 4 years ago by saying he was a kid that needed tutoring and that, she was in high school. And Caleb asks if she misses the sun. She says she can't really remember it. And Caleb responds that he doesn't either. Well, he doesn't like the sun anymore and he sees better in the dark. Um, and at this point, Homer leaves the card game and goes outside for a little walk where he actually runs into Sarah, Caleb's 9-year-old sister. And I want to
Oh
say
shit.
nine-year-old sister. And so she's at the soda machine and he's like all struck by her because she's a little sassy. And he invites her back to the room to watch color TV cartoons on color TV. Right. So once he gets back into the room, Diamondback is like basically looking at him like, why did you bring her here? And he's giving her the look like this about to be my girl. And so she's like, okay, well, sweetie, where are you from? And she's like, yeah, room number 3, just giving out all her information. So at that point, Severin goes to go get who we know has got to be Lloyd. Um, and just as Sarah's like, okay, this is weird, let me get up out of here, she goes to the door and Caleb and May are coming back in. So now we have a family reunion because right after they come into the door, Severin comes in with Loy. And so it's like, this is my sister and that's my dad. And Jesse is like, I don't care. They about to die. And so Caleb is like, look, Dad, I'm not coming home with you. I'm going to be with them now. I just, Jesse, I need you to let them go. Like, they just let them go. And before we even know whether Jesse's going to let them go, because he does say, well, they've seen our faces, so I think they need to die.
Right.
Homer grabs Sarah and is like, she's mine. And he's holding on to her. He's like, I'm going to nip her. And basically, we find out at this point, he says, you took May from me. So this is only fair. So now we find out, honestly, that Homer tricked May into being a vampire, thinking that that was going to be his partner, not realizing that when he nipped May, May was 17 basically, and he looks like he's 12. So
Yeah.
regardless of how old he is on the inside, because he's not decades, he's hundreds of years old.
He's
Um,
decades old.
right?
Yeah.
He's hundreds of years old. We don't know how old though, because they never go into his backstory, but we know he's
Yeah.
older than May, and May was turned 4 years ago. So, you know, but
Yeah.
but it's just kind of nasty.
It's very creepy.
But
Very.
again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that for the end. So Sarah breaks free from Homer though, and she opens the door, and this exposes everybody to the sun because we find out during that scene that it's 5 a.m. So apparently the sun rose really quickly at this
So
point,
quick.
real fast. Um and so Caleb covers himself and he escapes with his family and they all go home. Now at the house, Lloyd does a blood transfusion on Caleb, which reverses his vampirism. Which, okay. So, and I'm speed running that because there was a whole conversation. It doesn't matter though because they end up at home.
He
Now,
died. You can't. Uh, sorry.
yeah, because he was cold to the touch and now he's not.
Because
So,
that's what it means to be a vampire, is that the process of turning into a vampire, this is known in every vampire movie ever, is that when you get bit, you die, and then you have to like drink the blood of whoever right before you die in order to complete this transition. But in this case, he's no longer dead because his dad gave him a blood transfusion. So it
well,
doesn't make any sense to
and
me.
and that's two things that they didn't do because one, they never mention that he's dead. They said that he turned, but we find out that his skin had to have been cold at some point, which means
Because
he's
he's
dead.
dead.
And they never specified that he needed to drink May's blood. May gave it to him because he was dying, basically.
Right.
But they always emphasize going to hunt. Now, they could get around this by saying, we never said they were vampires. We never said that. So there's some other type of being, but we never said they were vampires. So different rules for this group of people.
If
Even
anybody ever said, like, if we were ever in a debate, like, if we went to a convention and someone said that to me, I would fight that, like, on the spot. I feel like, what are they then?
I mean,
Tell
look,
me what they are.
because they never call themselves vampires. They never
Oh my
mention
God.
vampires. They
Maybe
never.
that's how they get around the plot holes. That
Hey,
they built it right in so they
yeah,
could say that.
yeah. So okay. So at this point, and I assume it's the next day, which we can't assume it's the next day because again, there are gaps in this movie that they don't really say. But when we see them, which feels like the next day, they are sitting at the dinner table. It's Lloyd, Caleb, and Sarah. They're sitting at the dinner table. Caleb looks like the cowboy from one of the like Michelob cigarette ads or something like that. Um,
Is that a beer? Is
I
that
don't know.
is that
Whatever cigarette. I'm thinking of a red cigarette case. What's that red cigarette?
Marlboro?
That's what I meant. I
Michelob.
don't listen, y'all. I don't smoke and I don't
Listen,
drink Michelob. So
if if beer companies start putting out cigarettes, I think they would make a lot of money. I'm just saying. Anyway,
probably.
yeah,
But
right.
yeah, so he looks like one of those guys because he does smoke cigarettes in this movie. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so he's got on like the tight pants and he's wearing a hat and all that. Well, he puts a hat on. But
Wrangler jeans, probably.
right, probably. So they're having dinner. Sarah goes upstairs. Caleb hears a noise. He knows who it is. He goes outside. Of course, it's May. And May wants him back and she hugs him, realizing he's warm. And that kind of disgusts her and she leaves. But, and I thought about this after I wrote this because I said, while he's distracted by May and Lloyd asleep on the couch, because they show Lloyd sleep on the couch. And mind you, I'm sorry, but y'all just went through a whole thing with some vampires who know where you live, and you have your windows wide open with the blinds just blowing in the wind. So clearly
Not even
anybody could.
screens. There's not even
No,
a screen in the
no.
window. No.
You could reach right in and tap Lloyd on his forehead while he's sleeping. That's how the
Boop,
window's
boop.
open, how close he was to that window.
And not only are you letting any people into your house, bugs,
Oh
giant
yeah,
spiders,
right.
scorpions, maybe Leatherface, because they're probably in the similar place as him. Um, yeah, it's just not very smart.
No,
Not a
it's
very
not.
smart move. No, it's not.
It's not. So Caleb comes into the house. He goes upstairs and immediately sees that Sarah has been taken. And when he goes outside to leave, he realizes that all the car's tires have been slashed. So at this point, at first I thought it was to lure him to go fight them. But here's the thing, they didn't necessarily realize he had a horse. Also, I feel like at first May was coming to see him, but
Right.
I feel like they said, you need to go distract him so we can get Sarah. And
Mm,
at the end of the day, Sarah was meant to basically be like, well, you didn't want to do whatever, so we're going to take Sarah for Homer because Homer wants Sarah. So that's kind of how I took that after I
yeah.
watched this again. But so he gets on his horse and decides to ride off into the night with the horse like horseshoes going click clack click clack. They were literally making noises. So
I like that
he
sound.
he rides into the night to find his sister, and he runs into Severin first. And they're fighting each other, but really Severin just kicking his ass. Before he gets into the semi truck, the driver of the semi gets killed, which again they love semis in this movie,
Love.
and he runs Severin over, but Caleb remembers all the little things that the first semi truck driver told him when he was saying, if you don't do this, it's going to blow up the car, the cab or whatever. He does all that and he kills Severin, blowing him to smithereens while he jumps out of the truck. So that's one vampire down. Now we see that Jesse and May are in the middle of the street, and in the background, we see a car where there's two people struggling in the car, which when we go to the car, we see that nasty ass Homer is on top of Sarah, basically singing Don't Be Afraid to her. If you know what song I'm talking about, y'all already know. But he's on top of her and he's like, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. It's gonna
It's
be
really
okay.
creepy.
He's
Yeah.
really, really nasty in that scene. But So going back to for a second, back to outside, May is like to Jesse, can you please just take Caleb back? And he's like, it's too late. Like, too much has been done at this point. Like, you look at what he's
Right.
done. And he also just killed Severin. Like, come on now. So they're getting ready to basically kill Caleb because Diamondback comes up behind him and is about to throw a knife at him to kill him. But at the same time, Sarah gets a flashlight, bonks Homer on the head with it, jumps out and saves Caleb's life by warning him. He moves, the knife hits Severin in the mouth, like down the throat. And
Oops.
Caleb picks up Sarah and starts running off basically with her. And they tell May, like, hey, get in the car. Jesse's okay. He pulls the knife out of his mouth like one of those magicians, and he's fine. Um, they get in the car and they chase after Caleb and Sarah. Now, what was dumb was in the middle of the field where it's turning into daytime now. Um, and Caleb is okay. He's no longer a vampire. Remember, he's got this blood transfusion. He's got his daddy's blood in him. Okay, and so he's running through the field. He falls and drops Sarah and says, "Run, baby, run." Why are you telling her that? Because the car comes up and they snatch Sarah back up and put her
Right.
in the car again.
He should have stayed with her.
Right. And so he's running after the car. The car is going down the road. May decides she's going to save Sarah. She grabs Sarah. She jumps out the back seat of the back window of the car and rolls down the street with Sarah. Now, at this point, Sarah's like, all right, well, I'm running because she sees Caleb. Caleb sees her. They're running towards each other. Homer gets out the car and is like, no. And he starts running. He starts catching on fire. Now, mind you, May also is kind of getting caught up in this fire too, but for whatever reason, not as much as Homer.
Yeah.
And she's not covered. Okay, we've seen throughout this movie that the moment that they touch sun, they get black, like
Yeah.
charred. Okay, like a hot dog at a barbecue in the summertime, charred. Okay, it's pink on the inside, but black on the outside. Okay, and that's what they look
Yeah.
like every single time until they heal. And so Homer completely starts charring. And in fact, if you look up the one of the covers, because there's like seven different covers for this movie for some reason.
I noticed that.
Yeah, if you look up one of the covers, it shows you Homer burning. Okay. Um,
Oh.
that's like one of the main things is Homer burning. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's burning, but May is not. But anyway, he explodes. He burns to death, and the sun is getting stronger and stronger, and the car that Jesse and Diamondback are in does not have any protection because throughout this movie they've been putting like blackout shades and stuff on their cars to keep them safe. And so they basically realize they're about to die too. And they're like, it's been a good run for however long we've been together because we also
Yeah.
found out that Jesse turned Diamondback at some point too. That was mentioned earlier in the movie. So that was his girl that he picked. Um, which is this is
She
all
loved his rat tail. I'm sorry to keep
she's
harping on it, but it's really a sight to behold, you know?
yeah, yeah, she definitely did. But so they in the car, they end up blowing up and everything is like, okay, but we still have May. Somehow May gets back to the house with Caleb and Sarah, and somebody gives May a damn blood transfusion, and now she's human too. And that's the end of our movie.
I want to say one thing. I want to go back to something else I appreciated.
Yes.
So, and I stopped referring to him as whatever his name is, Severin. I
Hmm.
started writing Billy Pax in my notes. So I was like, Billy, so anyway, Billy Pax. So the truck scene with him at the end, when he is on it, so basically he climbs up the truck and he's trying to like
Right.
rip the wires out and all this shit. Um, I forget, I think a smaller explosion happened or maybe the impact when he hit him in the truck. Half of his face was missing when he came up, and again, practical effects, superb. I was like,
Spot on.
oh, yes,
They
like
look
that
very
very
good.
much.
He was given Two Face from Batman, like a really good Two Face though.
He did a really good job, and I actually just looked it up when you were just finishing about the cover, the Near Dark cover, because
Is
I
it
don't.
him or is it Homer? Because I after I said it, I thought it might have actually been him with that face.
It is him because I was looking
Okay.
because I was like I remember him with the cover with that with the face,
Yeah.
but that was actually from earlier. That was from when they
Right.
first in the hotel when he got some sun.
Yes. When they
Um,
first did if we're going back to the scene, it's the firefight, not when Sarah
yeah,
opened up the
yeah.
door, but the firefight, they initially opened up the door and they're like, "Oh my God, the sun is out."
Yeah,
And
and like
that's when
half
they,
his face got blackened like
yeah,
a hot dog, like you said.
yes. And that's when they
Um,
forced Caleb to go save them because they're not going out in the sun.
yes, that's what's on the cover, not when his face is like literally missing. But that
Mhm.
was a good part. One of two highlights for me. But yeah, that's the movie. They get to
Yes.
live happily ever after in their human forms, I guess, right?
Yeah, this film concludes with
Wow.
them embracing and loving their second chance at life, leaving darkness
Wow.
behind. So yes, Finn, the end. Um, so I do have some facts for
Oh,
you guys with this movie.
hooray.
So
Facts.
the budget for Near Dark was
$5.
was
Sorry.
approximately 5 million actually.
Oh,
Um
I was like,
and right, and
$5.
it did struggle at the box office, only earning 3.4 million during its run, but it did ultimately become a commercial failure after release.
Oh, it
So
did? That's
yeah.
such a surprise. That's so crazy. Hmm.
Now, however, despite its financial shortcomings, this film gained a significant cult following and is regarded as a classic in the horror genre. And it received generally positive reviews, with critics praising its innovative blend of genres and atmospheric storytelling. So, I wanted to actually give you some of these reviews so that you could actually hear.
I'm excited.
So, Rotten Tomatoes approval rating was 83% based on 75 critic reviews. The average rating was 7.4 out of 10. And the consensus of all of those was Near Dark is at once a creepy vampire film, a thrilling Western, and a poignant family tale with humor and scares in abundance. So that's the overall feel of those 75 reviews from Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic, the score was a 76 over 100, indicating generally favorable reviews. Karen James of the New York Times says that she praised Bigelow's ambition, but noted that her two studied compositions occasionally clashed with the naturalistic approach to character design. Okay, that was a lot to say,
Whatever that means.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so
Whatever that means,
I think
Karen.
I
Yeah.
think like what she basically is saying with that, for anybody who's just wondering like what the hell did you just say? Um she basically was like, let me be very precise with how I'm going to make these characters be. Or instead of letting them be a little bit more natural, like everything was very on the nose for this person. That's what I kind of got from it.
Hmm.
Um, and so since she was trying to make people seem very like casual and natural, but like the whole like burning, like completely burning really fast, or or trying to make them seem very Western or very Southern or whatever the case may be. So, like she said, they said two studied compositions, like it was too much and it
Yeah.
clashed. Jonathan Rosenbaum from the Chicago Reader described the film as beautifully shot and commended Bigelow's successful debut in big budget filmmaking with this hillbilly vampire story. Hal Hinson of the Washington Post highlighted the fusion of vampire legends, westerns, and biker movies, calling the film both outrageous and poetic, with extravagant bloody thrills and a genuine emotional depth. Peter Travers from the Rolling Stone called the movie gory and gorgeous, emphasizing its stunning visual appeal. And Alan Jones from Radio Times rated it 4 out of 5 stars and described it as a 1980s horror landmark and one of the best vampire movies ever made. Praising, now this is of 1987, so that's for as of 1987, praising its visually stunning and frightening package and the standout performances of Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton. It also received accolades from Entertainment Weekly. It was included in the 25 best horror movies of the 80s, and it was praised for blending Western tropes with punk rock energy and being one of the best and bloodiest vampire films of the 1980s. And Vulture listed this movie in 25 movies that define the goth cinema canon and recognized it for its impact on goth subculture and its lasting influence on the genre. Now, before I go further, because there is more stuff, but that's all the little accolades and reviews. How'd you feel about that? Because I did not tell her any of these before this.
I feel like I gave myself so many wrinkles during this, like the amount of faces that I made. Like, the thing is, so the the thing is that all of these people, like, they're like, oh, goth subculture. And I'm like, wait, no, what? No, what? Um, I don't get it. I don't get it. So it's like, is there something that I'm missing that all of these critics and journalists and people are like, this was great. It was gory and gorgeous or whatever Rolling Stone said, which is insane. Um, is there something wrong with me that I don't see any of that in it? Because I don't. I don't see any of that in it. I don't. I was wondering, I don't know if I said this to you the other day, but it's like I was wondering if maybe I saw this as a little kid, would it have the nostalgia for me of like, would I have liked it at the time? But I'll tell you, honestly, when I first started watching this movie, I'm a person that I'm very quick to identify if I'm gonna like something or not like something. I still give it a chance, you know what I mean? And that goes for
Right.
books too, because I like to read. Um, if something doesn't grab me right away, I usually know it's not going to be for me, right? So within 5 minutes of watching this movie, like the first 5 minutes, I was like, I'm going to hate this movie. Like I could just tell by the way that it was moving,
Yeah.
and the way that the characters were. Um, so like I said, for me, it's like a double-edged, like, am I not like super cultured where I think this is trash and everyone else thinks it's amazing? Or like I don't know. Because I don't agree with any of those reviews. Like
Yeah.
I deeply don't. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like that with music. Like within the first 5 seconds of a song, I typically can know whether I want to listen to more or not. And I'll skip to the middle. And if I like what I hear somewhere in the middle, then I'll listen to the whole song. But if I don't like the
yeah.
beginning or the middle, or sometimes just the beginning, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. So I understand that,
I agree with you.
with books and movies. So
I do like to give things a chance, but like by the end of the movie, I was like, well, I was correct in my initial judgment that I
yeah.
wasn't going to like this movie,
And
except for Billy
and
Pax.
and I mean sometimes it is like that. So yeah,
They
I don't
can't all
know.
be winners. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Near Dark is celebrated for its genre-bending approach, atmospheric direction, and strong, memorable performances by Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen. And despite its cult status today, it faced tough competition from other vampire films of the era, many of which overshadowed its initial release. So I'm going to go through some of these movies now.
Yes, please.
So in
Yes.
1987, The Lost Boys, directed by Joel Schumacher, premiered 2 months before Near Dark. And Near Dark came out October 3rd, 1987. So this was 2 months prior. And that movie combined humor, teen rebellion, and gothic horror.
Yeah.
And that movie, The Lost Boys, became a cultural phenomenon. And as Near Dark's biggest contemporary rival, it offered another unconventional take on vampire mythology. Yet while The Lost Boys leaned into flashy commercial appeal, Near Dark distinguished itself with its gritty genre bending style. So they kind of compared those two together because they came out the closest together. But of course,
Which makes sense.
The Lost
Yeah.
Boys was much more popular than
Yeah.
Near Dark.
Is that like a joke? Like a no. But I just want you, for those of you who are listening and not watching us, when she mentioned the Lost Boys, I made so many violent gestures with my body. I'm like, yes, of course, the Lost Boys. The Lost Boys did it the
Yes.
right way. So like, I just wanted you to have to know that if you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Because are you kidding me? Like, the Lost Boys blows this movie out of the wall, out of the atmosphere. Like, are you kidding me? The cast, I can't. Like,
Yeah.
like the cast alone. Come on.
Yeah. So there are
Whew.
several other vampire films released around the same time that also drew attention away from Near Dark. So there's Fright Night Part 2 that came out in 1988, which is a sequel to the beloved 1985 classic.
Hmm.
There's also Vampire's Kiss of 1988, which featured Nicolas Cage in a darkly comedic and satirical take on vampirism.
I think I saw that.
Um,
I don't remember.
I haven't. My Best Friend is a Vampire from 1987, which is a lighthearted teen comedy about vampires. And A Return to Salem's Lot, which is 1987, which is a sequel to Stephen King's vampire tale. And
Salem's Lot. Right.
yep. And then additionally, Near Dark was compared to earlier vampire films that also left a significant mark on the genre, which was Fright Night of 1985, which was a mix of suburban horror and campy humor, and also The Hunger of 1983, which was said it was a visually stunning, sensual vampire film featuring David Bowie and Susan Sarandon. which I had never heard of either. I think
I
I heard of it, but I'm not sure.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say, having not seen that movie, that if it has David mother effing Bowie in it and Susan Sarandon, that it's also far superior to the movie that we just watched. I don't care what the script is. I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
It's better. I'm just saying that. I'm just like,
So, while Near Dark didn't achieve the same immediate recognition as all of the films I just mentioned, its unique take on vampire lore and its gritty atmospheric tone have earned it lasting acclaim and a devoted fan base. So that is those are my fun facts
I have a
for you.
question. I have a
Yes.
question, okay? So if it has a dedicated fan base and a cult classic, then how come nobody we know who likes horror has ever heard of this movie before? Wow.
I don't know. I mean, the person who recommended it heard of it enough for us to want us to review it, and also the 10 people that I saw on YouTube have seen it. So so
That's the cult. That's the
I
cult. The
I
10
guess
people, well, the 11 people, including whoever recommended this. I don't know. I don't know. We suspect we know who recommended this movie. And we're just no, just no. I would never trust a recommendation from this person ever again after this movie. I'm sorry. Like, oh my God, it's so good. Like, no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. Like, that's all I
well,
have to say. But yes, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, considering that we've heard how you felt about this movie throughout,
Yeah.
what other takes do you have? Do you have any other thoughts about this
I've
movie?
given all of my takes. I can't even hold it in. That's the problem with being a fire sign too, is like even if you're like, be cool, don't let it out. Just gonna be fine. Just keep it inside. And it just comes out anyway. I hated this movie. Like, I hate it.
Is this worse
Um,
than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? Because Winnie the Pooh,
yes,
Blood and Honey was one of her worst movies of last
yes,
year.
yes. Because also, I love vampires. I love vampire lore. Even there's been a time, listen, I do not like sparkly vampires. I'm not about like those like it's almost just like a I don't know how to describe it, like 50 Shades of Grey. Like it's almost like a Twilight synonymous with 50 Shades of Grey type of thing.
Hmm.
Not really about that. I have, however, found myself accidentally watching them in marathons when they've been on TV and nothing was on. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not. But
Right.
vampires in general, Bela Lugosi to, oh my God, why can't I think of his name right now? Everyone know, oh my God, why is he
Who?
blanking out of my head? Commissioner Gordon. He's in everything. He's a great character actor. I can't think of him.
Oh,
The guy who was in Dracula. He played Dracula.
listen, I'm not gonna be able to tell you the name.
Son of a bitch. I'm so mad. I am not that old that I should be not knowing.
I'm just horrible at names, so I can't even say nothing. I called Marlboro's Michelob earlier, so
Um,
so don't trust me.
oh
Um,
my God, Gary
oh yeah,
Oldman.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
Gary
that's why
Oldman.
I'm so mad because I'm like, he's in everything and he's amazing and I love him so much. Gary
Yes.
Oldman, like these are great vampiric actors and great pieces and everyone in the Lost Boys and it's just like I love Bill Paxton. I love Lance Henriksen. Do you know what I mean? The lady who played Diamondback, she's actually also in Titanic.
Oh
I looked her
wow.
up. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's not that the cast was bad, just the movie for me just wasn't it. It had some good practical effects. Um, I just feel like it was a bomb and I hated it. But I feel like I've been sharing so much and you've been really holding your opinions inside. And I think that it's time for you to let them out. It's time. And if you tell me you love this movie, I'm gonna hang up. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna hang up. You're like, actually, I really liked it. I'm like, no, go on.
So so let me start with this. The thing that was the most fucking egregious for me is Homer. I hated him. I hated him with a burning hot coal passion. Okay. If I had a hot poker from a fireplace, I'd have poked him in the eye with it because I honestly like the thing is he came off like a PDF file, okay? Because he's an old man in a 12-year-old's body, and
Yeah,
the actor who plays him, which brilliant, you did a great job, kid. You're a
he
man now,
did.
but you did a great job. Like because you made me feel like you were an old man in a little kid's body almost the whole entire time, except for one scene when he was about to get burned by the sun. He's like, "Don't let me get burned." He acted like a kid at that point, but every other scene he was very like grown. And the way he was preying on Sarah, who was a kid too, but she's a kid, and you're playing an adult that isn't a kid's body. Like it was just weird to me. And I couldn't like get past the fact that the way he like if you see this movie and look at how he looks at Sarah when she's getting the soda and he first discovers her, he
Yeah.
looks at her like a predator. And I'm like, as that kid, as an actor, he did a really good job because I was like, oh, you're gross. And if you make me feel something, that means you did something right. And it is what it is. So I hated that character with a passion. Okay. With that out the way, upon first watch of this movie, I did not really like this movie. I thought that it was I thought it was silly because I'm just like this the accents were getting on my nerves, especially May. May's accent is annoying to me.
It's so
Um
annoying.
and I found it to just be like it was just weird. And then I really got annoyed by the ending. Like, you're gonna give people blood transfusion and they're no longer a vampire. Are you serious?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that doesn't happen. So I was kind of annoyed by that. So after I looked at all these reviews, because when I watched it the first time, I collected these reviews and I'm like, what are they like you? I said, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Because initially I really was like, ugh, but I also have to say, I didn't like watch it.
Right.
I was watching it in passing because I was sitting here and I was like playing a game on my phone. I was taking light notes. I wasn't completely watching it.
Right.
So I knew I was going to have to watch it again. When I watched it today, I said, okay, I'm going to keep what these review people have said in mind. And I'm going to actually watch it with a less like subjective eye and be a little bit more objective. So I will say that cinematography was really, really good in this movie. Um, it did remind me, it had the same color grading as in parts as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially the end. In fact, the end where they're running down the road, where Sarah's running down the road and Homer's on fire and they're running towards Caleb really
Right.
gave me Texas
Texas
Chainsaw vibes.
Chainsaw, where he's
Um,
swinging his chainsaw around on this
yes.
on the street.
Yep. It gave me the same type of feel. And I mean, honestly, I didn't like Texas Chainsaw either, but I still think that parts of that were shot really well, parts
Sure.
of it. And that scene in particular at the end of Texas Chainsaw was good. And like I said, I think that they did a really good job. Honestly, Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton, more Bill Paxton, they do a really good job in this
They
movie.
do.
And their characters are really strong in this movie. I will honestly say that outside of Loy, and I'm gonna put Sarah in this thing too. But outside of Caleb, Loy, May, and Sarah, whatever, everybody else did a really good job as far as their characters because Diamondback was believable. Homer, I just told you he was horrible, so he was doing a good job.
Yeah.
Um, Severin, who is Bill Paxton, he did a great job, and then of course, Jesse, who was Lance. And so the performances were good. The storyline itself is it has a logical progression, though they don't the time is off fucked up. So you don't know
Right.
if how much time has gone. So that's kind of weird. But as far as like it's starting out with, okay, she bites him, he gets sick, he ends up with the clan, the parents, the dad is looking for him. You know, there's a whole issue with the bar and him not wanting to bite people. Like, okay, it all follows logical up until the end where you do the blood transfusions and everybody's okay. You know, and I feel like the ending was very anticlimactic because
Yeah.
it's like he got the blood transfusion. The next day they stole Sarah. He got on his horse, he killed Severin, and then they got burned in the fire. And it's like, okay, wow, that ended really much faster than the rest of this movie. The ending of
Right.
this movie was shorter than the bar scene. Okay.
Yeah. It really went, it like hit a point where it started moving really fast.
Yeah.
And I think that the movie may have been redeemable for me if it had been faster the whole time. If they didn't drag it the whole
Yeah.
time, you know?
Yeah, because they were like, to be honest, like the bar scene and also that firefight, which still had good stuff. Both of those scenes were too long for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, And so yeah, I hate to see like people sucking blood and stuff, and I can't watch those parts. Like I literally had to skip over any part where May was feeding dude or where they were biting people. I have to skip over that the part. There's a part in the bar scene where they kill the waitress and then they put her blood into a cup. I gotta skip over that. Like I just can't handle those scenes. I can handle anything else, but like drinking blood disgusts me. But again, all of these things were done really well. Now, I just didn't necessarily love this movie at all.
Sure.
Would I watch it again? No. Is it a movie that I feel like, oh, it was so slow and it dragged? No, I don't feel like it was. We always go back to the devil made me
Movie of
do
its
it.
time. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
always go
Oh my
back to that.
God.
Like it doesn't feel like that for me because it did move along, but it's not a movie I necessarily would watch again. But I can see where some of these people were coming from when they said that it was shot really well, or like the acting of certain people was done really well,
That
or
part I
that,
can agree with. Yeah.
right, or that for its time, it was a movie that defined goth horror cinema. I could see that it's a part of that. I don't think it's the whole definition, but I think it might be an adjective. If you look at the Merriam-Webster book and it says vampire movies and it gives you a whole bunch of movies and that says, "Oh, you want some more and more?" Then it could be down there, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Down there. But it's like, it's hard for me, especially when you're like the Lost Boys, to be like, well, for its time it was good. And it's like, well, but the Lost Boys came out around the same time, and that is so superior, in my opinion, because that is all my opinion. It's hard. So hard to be like, bleh. But
Yeah.
I just want to address one thing you were saying this doesn't feel like Devil Made Me Do It for you. It felt like it to me. That almost like painful, like this is so slow. How am I gonna get through it? But only into like the middle. And then it started moving faster. So the whole movie didn't feel like Devil Made Me Do It, but that kind of most of the beginning had me feeling that same dread of like, you know.
You know what might be the difference for me? The very
Mm,
first time I watched this movie, I had it on like 0.15 speed, so it was much faster. So I didn't
okay.
watch it in regular time. Now, the second time I watched it, I did watch it in regular time, but I already knew what was happening.
Right.
So it didn't feel that bad for me because I could skip parts. Again, I
Right.
skipped over the blood parts. I skipped over most of the bar scene. Like some of the stuff I was like, I don't need to see it again. I skipped over the firefight. I knew what was happening.
Right.
So there are certain things that it's like I didn't have to see it again. So maybe that's why it didn't feel that bad to me because the first time I watched it much faster than it's supposed to be played,
If
which
I had watched it and
thank
fast
God.
forward, maybe I would have had a different thing. But I put it on, and the only thing I ever did with it ever was pause it to note certain things that were taking me longer. So I watched it full out painfully
Yeah.
one whole time, and that was enough.
So yeah, I can understand that being definitely being a problem. So I
Yeah.
understand. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of my thought about it. I can
Yeah.
understand where some of these people were coming from. Let's do our rating. So how many bloody axes are you giving this? I almost said what I thought. That's why I said let me just do this now.
So I'm torn. I'm torn. I'm not that torn. I'm gonna give it a four, and I'm gonna give it a four for 4 points. For 4 points.
Oh my God. I was like, are you giving a one or a two?
No, no, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'm being generous still. The first point is the cop getting his stomach blown out.
Yes.
The second point is Billy Pax's face on the truck. The
Okay.
third point is for Billy Pax, and the fourth point is for Lance Henriksen. That is why it has 4 points for me. Because initially I was just going to give it a three, like immediately. Because
That's still higher than what I thought you were going to give
even
it.
though I'm doing the Italian hand right, or like the politician hand right now, I'm like, even though I deeply dislike this movie, it's not to say that there aren't some good things about it, but it's just that my hatred of it, of the story, supersedes those things. So
Right.
you are taking the time to point out, hey, the cinematography is good, the people are acting strong, and I feel like that too, but I hate it so much I can't even speak about it. So
No, I
it's like
understand.
that's where the points come from for me. Um, I never want to watch this movie again, ever, ever,
Same. I'm
ever.
not,
No.
2 times was enough for me.
Yeah, so that's why those people were strong, those effects were strong. Um, are those strong enough things to get to 4 points? Probably not, but I'm being generous, and that is my rating. And what is yours?
So, um, yeah, I think that this was hard. This is hard for me because, as you know, I famously say five is good. Okay, five is
Yes,
like this is good. Um, and anything higher than five is like that's decent.
I like
Okay,
it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And anything below that is obviously, needs work, subpar, whatever. So I honestly have to give this. I'm gonna give it a six. And
Well,
here's why I'm giving it a six. Most of most of this is coming from that genius part of putting in that connection between Fleischman's and the reason why Jesse was not touching that man's hand. The fact that I actually was able to connect that, I was like, that is so clever. I was so impressed with that one thing. That I was like whoever wrote that in or whoever like decided to put that in, though they didn't execute it very well, but if somebody is like me and they're able to figure out that, because you can figure it out clearly, that's a really dope connection for that to make you see why he acted the way he did. And it's a character thing. And I really like that. Um so a lot of it goes for that. I will also say I'm always a cinematography person. I love the way things are shot. The color grading on this movie was really good. It gave you a very 80s feel. It gave you a hazy summertime feel at times. The night times were deep and dark. And it gave you cold, almost chilly, like not winter nights, but chilly night times. Um,
yeah,
and I really like that. I also thought that the practical effects with the burning on the faces and stuff was really
yeah,
done really well. The practical
yeah.
effect with the man getting his stomach blown out was very well. Um, and the progression of the storyline up until they give blood transfusions to change vampires back to humans. Up
Ugh.
until that, the
Yeah,
storyline progression is decent. And so honestly, overall, it's not really a bad movie. It's just a movie I don't like. But if I give it like an objective score, it's a six because it's decent. It's really actually well done. And the acting is not bad, except for a few things like May's accent and almost May altogether.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not a fan of May really at all. Um,
You don't say.
yeah, but like, but overall, it's not bad. So I can give it a six. I mean, I can't really like giving it anything higher would be me being generous, and giving it anything lower would be me negating something that's objectively good.
Sure.
So yeah, I landed on a six.
I wonder, is this the first time I've rated something lower than you? It might be.
Possibly. The one thing I really want to go back at some point and look at
We'll have to make
the
a
beginning
list.
movies
Yeah.
because I feel like one, we have Winnie the two of the movies that we rated kind of low were The Devil Made Me Do It. I think we rated kind of low. And then of course Winnie the Pooh. I
Ugh,
don't remember what else we rated kind of low. So yeah, I'd
no.
have to see, but this might be the first one that you've rated
I
lower
mean,
than me. Maybe.
so for me, just going back to Winnie the Pooh, because you were like, was this movie worse for you? And I feel like it was, because it was painful to watch, but so was that one. But Winnie the Pooh for me didn't have anything redeeming whatsoever. Like this had like the good.
Well, you like the practical effects in Winnie the Pooh though.
No, I know, but I'm saying like it didn't have any actors that I was
Oh
crazy
yeah.
about or anything like that. Like so the practical effects, yes, but that was it. So this at least had a little bit more in the way of that, but I still think it was hot garbage and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
if I talk about Winnie the Pooh, because I liked Winnie the Pooh more than you did, okay? I did not like the movie, but I liked it more than you did.
yes.
And I will say if I'm because I didn't really think about it, but if I'm comparing this movie to that movie, I definitely I would probably watch Winnie the Pooh again if I was like really, really drunk and like throwing up and like had nothing else to watch and my eyeballs were like burned out, I probably would watch it again. Whereas I would not watch this again, though it's a better movie. This movie was fucking eons better than Winnie the Pooh, because of everything coming together. Winnie the Pooh didn't have a storyline that made sense. Winnie the Pooh didn't have
No.
characters that made sense. Winnie the Pooh had plot holes.
Like,
Winnie,
if I
like,
ever like went on a date with someone who was like, these are movies that we're gonna have, you're gonna have to watch these movies if you want to be with me. And it was like the greatest person ever that I ever dated ever. It would give me pause that I would seriously reconsider the relation. I would be like, I don't know. Like, is that because people, certain people have ones that like you must at least tolerate to be in a
yeah,
relationship with them. Like some people are really into um Star Wars,
anime. Yeah,
right? Some people are really into anime, some people are really into Lord of the Rings or any kind of movie like that. And it's like that's one thing, but if someone was like these two or like either one of them, I'd be like, let me get back to you. Let me get back to you.
I don't think anybody should have Winnie the Pooh on there. You must watch this to be in a relationship
Nobody
with me.
should.
I
Nobody
could
should.
understand. I could understand someone fighting for this one, but not Winnie the Pooh.
This one, yes,
Yeah.
I could understand someone fighting for it. It still will give me pause, though. It would still
Yes.
give me pause. I would question their judgment. I want to say I looked it up. So I was curious about the actor who played Homer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Joshua John Miller.
Yep.
He actually has multiple occupations. He hasn't acted in, he's only 50 years old too.
Wow.
He's done some acting, but not an incredible amount. But he's also a screenwriter, director, author, producer, which I think is cool. Um, his first film role was in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which I don't think should count in the Halloween
It definitely
franchise,
does
but
not count,
it
but
doesn't count. But so I was just reading about it quick. That was his debut. He had like um a little part, but then I was just going through the cast to kind of find where he was at. And it just at the bottom, I just want to give props. Dick Warlock, man, that what an
oh
incredible
my
name,
God,
but an incredible
yes.
name. But he didn't play Michael Myers in Halloween 3 because there was no
Mm,
Michael Myers in Halloween
right.
3. He did play um they called it the lead android assassin, so that's fun. But Dick Warlock has been part of so many movies and things over time
Yes.
as whether just a stuntman or or he's has a lot of uncredited he was uncredited for Jaws
Oh
1975.
wow.
Tons of movies. But again, I just want to bring it back to what an incredible name,
Dick
right?
Warlock.
What a
That's an
great
awesome
name.
name. It's
That's an
so
awesome
memorable
name.
too.
It sounds like it has to be fake, but
It
it's
might
not.
be.
It's
You
not
know,
fake. Hold on,
I
let's see
mean,
if we
maybe
could
his name is
go.
Richard Warlock.
Which is still
It's still
it's still
crazy.
amazing. Um and he was actually Kurt Russell's stunt double for like ever.
I could see that.
Um
I could definitely see that.
but yeah. So what was his name? Joshua John.
What is his name?
God damn it.
Joshua, where's Homer?
Joshua John
John
Miller,
Miller.
who led us right to Dick Warlock. So all roads lead to Dick Warlock, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I'm glad we never have to watch that movie again. That was rough. Whew. I'm glad it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But
So
I love you, Bill Paxton, and it made me very sad because I forgot that he passed away when I was watching this, and I was like, because also, I don't know if it was one of my first ones, but one of my very vivid memories of watching a movie with him, and it was Twister,
oh, okay. Wow, yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
I
probably one of mine too, actually.
loved him ever since because that came out in the 90s, probably like 98 or 9 something like
Something like
that.
that.
Um, and I just always loved him and he is good in everything he does even if the story doesn't really do him justice per se. But yeah, it made me sad all over again. I was like I forgot that he passed away. He was a good one. And Titanic obviously. Another
Yes.
Titanic actor. But yeah. So yeah, that's
That's it. That
that's it.
is
Jazz
that
hands.
is Near Dark. Our favorite movie. So I guess there's nothing else you want to say here, I will
I got
close this
nothing.
out. All right.
Nope.
I'm gonna close us out here. So,
Play us out. I wish we had a piano. Be like, "Doo-doo-doo," like old
right,
timey, like saloon music.
right. It would be perfect for right now
It
since this is a
would.
Western.
Yep.
Um, So thank you so much for joining us again for another THG episode. We hope you enjoyed venturing into the gritty, sun-scorched world of Near Dark, where outlaw vampires rule the night, and the line between humanity and monstrosity is razor thin. So if you found yourself captivated by May's haunting charm, or terrified by Severin's chaos, or debating whether you'd survive in a world without daylight, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Reach out to us on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram at The Horror Ghouls. And please don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling discussions and cinematic deep dives. So, until next time, stay spooky, avoid the seductive dangers of the night, and remember, in a world of vampires, daylight almost certainly comes at a deadly price, and they will not be getting transfusions.
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
Have a good time, night, day, whatever you're having. Make it good.
Yes.
Talk to you next
Yes.
time.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
guys.